Discover Help presents Stress-Free Living with Ray Samich and Mr. Stress-Free Ratanjit S. Sandhi. This audio program is an unscripted and unrehearsed conversation between Ray and Ratanjit. It is shared with you in hope of adding value to your life. We encourage you to listen to this program in its entirety to receive the full impact of its message. Sit back, relax, open your heart, mind, and soul to this edition of Stress-Free Living.
Welcome to Stress-Free Living. It's so good to be with you here today. I'm Ray Samich, and I'd like to introduce you all to my dear friend, my longtime radio colleague, and my spiritual brother, Ratanjit Sandhi. Ratanjit, how are you today?
Wonderful, Ray. How are you?
Excellent, thank you. Surrounded by all the friends here that join us on our Zoom call. It always kind of motivates us to see the faces of the people that we're talking to, along with all of the thousands of people that are out there in Radio Land or catching this on our YouTube channel, Stress-Free Living Radio. But we're especially motivated when we can interact with our audience. If you'd like to be a part of that, visit our YouTube channel. It's called Stress-Free Living Radio, and there's instructions there how you can join us on our live Zoom call. Ratanjit, it has been so many years, unbelievable that we have been together. And when you and I barely knew each other, and you first approached me with the concept of adding the highest value, it just seemed like, a good set of words. It seemed like that makes sense. I like it. But I really didn't understand the depth to those words. I didn't really understand how important it was and how many factors are involved in the idea of adding the highest value. So we did talk a lot about that in the early shows, and I think maybe I've taken it for granted over the majority of these last years that everybody understands that concept. And one of our guests, our Zoom guest, said, "Hey, can you really explore that?" And so we're doing that today. We really want to break it down to that phrase that really is at the essence of the show of stress-free living, is to understand how to add the highest value. So let's start with the why. Why do you think, Ratanjit, this concept is even so important? Why is it so meaningful for people to live a life where they add the highest value?
Every progress we make in our life, whether it is in business or as a student or in a relationship or as a citizen, basically all depends on what do I bring to the table? How do I add value? So this add value is used in business world constantly. We are adding value. But to add the highest value, basically you have heard people say, "I'm doing my best. That's all I can do. I've done my best." That is basically brings to mediocrity, because when you tell your thinking, creative brain power that you have done your best, it put a stop to that progress. It doesn't think anymore. But when there was once I had a employee who just joined our company, and I wanted to set a mindset with him. So I gave him a project to do. So he wrote a report and he gave it to me. So next day I asked him, I said, "Can you do better than this?" And so he took it back and, yeah, I can do better than that. Third day he gave me back, and again, next day again, I asked him, "This is the best you can really do? There has to be something better you can add to this." So he remorsefully said, yeah, I can try some more. And fourth time, Then he said, this is the best I can do. So I said, now I will read it. So I wanted, because I don't want to waste my time on anything mediocre.
Right.
That is the message I wanted to give him. So in our company, I told him that nothing until you exhaust everything you have in making it better, you do not submit any report. You do not quit. So it's a constant effort to do your best. So basically, your progress happens. Anybody you get promoted in a company, you find that person to be better, adding higher value than other people, right? So that's why you promote them. So to make progress, success is tied to continuously making your best better. So if you have a mindset of adding higher value, highest value, then you are not going to stop at mediocre. Companies who succeed in spite of depression or any of those things, they basically are part in continuously making their product and services better. So that is the fundamental reason. When you have a mindset of progressively making your best better, you are on the path of success, right?
You know, in today's world, there are so many factors that are involved because of social the social opinions and attitudes, because of what we've learned from prior generations that maybe didn't work out the way that they had thought they would, um, because of the economic factors where now parents both have to work, or there's a lot of single family households, and the single parent or both parents are working, and so then they have to spend some time with the kids. They want to spend time with the kids, but there's a lot of imbalance. There's a lot of situations in society where people are not just saying, I want to give myself to my work, but they're saying, I want to give myself to everything. So they're trying to do that balance of how much time they spend, how much commitment they make to their family, to themselves, and their peace of mind, their personal health, mental health that they have, their job performance, uh, perhaps some organizations or churches that they're involved with, and that makes them feel like they're giving back to the community, or experiencing a spiritual or religious experience as part of their total life. I think it's a little more difficult in today's world to be able to have this balance. And when they're doing their work, they're saying, I'm only going to do it at this level because I can't work harder or longer on that. I want to save time. I want to save some of my energy and some of my talents for my family, or I need to save some of it for me. I can't put it all out there because I have to be healthy and I have to watch my own levels of energy and my own. I want to live longer, so I don't want to kill myself doing this. I'm not sure if I'm communicating this properly, but it it seems harder today to always be at that 100% level of saying I want to always add the highest value. I see the
What you
merits of it, but is it realistic that I can do that 24/7?
what you're saying, you're presuming we have only so much to give. And if I give more here, I will have less to give to my relationship.
Right.
That itself is incorrect. So it is not really, it's basically a mindset. So whether you have a relationship or you are serving a dinner to your family, or you are giving somebody a cup of coffee, or you are working on a report, highly technical. The mindset is basically bringing how can I improve? Basically asking this question continuously, can I do better? Can I add more value? As a consequence of that, your self-worth, what you think of you, is defined by the value you add. Think of this. So either you are going to define yourself by the medal, trophy, or title and wealth you possess. Those are crutches. But the real self-worth, the internal self-worth, comes from continuously making the right effort. Once you exhaust everything which you can do to a project or a relationship or any circumstance and making it better, and that satisfaction comes, you are not doing it for others. Basically, thinking is, why should I add the highest value to this person or this situation, and I am only getting so much out of this? So that is a wrong way of thinking. Basically, you are cheating yourself from experiencing the highest self-worth about you, because your thinking, what you think of you, depends on the value you add to the situation, regardless whether you get recognized or you get award or trophy or medal or money. So the real self-worth depends on your unconditionally adding the highest value, right?
So I want to try to understand this a little bit more. It seems that you're saying there's an irony that goes on with this, that in my words that I said before, I was saying that I'm thinking about trying to be all things to everybody and including myself. And so I'm thinking of me in that process. I'm not dedicating myself to any one thing because I'm thinking there's only so much of me to go around and I have to save some for this and save some for him and her and this and that and me. And so in the process, by being self-indulgent, by being self-concerned about what I'm capable of doing and not thinking of others, then I'm actually limiting what I'm able to do. And I am ultimately lessening my self-worth because I'm not allowing myself to be what I can be and do what I'm capable of doing if I dig down deep inside. Is that a fair understanding of what you just said?
Yeah, so far we are basically tying it to the worldly things, or ultimately the results we get from adding the highest value. Obviously, wherever we add the highest value, we we get recognized, we get award or trophies and medals and better relationship. But when you recognize that these things are only done for elevating my own self-worth, you are inclined to take your value adding to a higher level. Now, there is one more thing. The main reason ultimately to add the highest value, and what is the highest value? whether to you the highest value is different, to me the highest value is different.
We're good.
So what is
I
the
want to get
highest
to that
value?
later. I want to get to the how to determine that later for sure.
Okay.
But you got me intrigued with this limiting idea, okay? With the fact that if we think we have a limit, we do. And you didn't use those words, but that's how I heard it. If we think that we can only do so much, that's all we can do. If we think that we only have so much time to be able to finish so much work, or that we only have so much abilities to take this to a certain level, then we're right. If we think that, then we're right about it. And in effect, we are limiting ourselves tremendously in what our capabilities are. And that's a really intriguing foundation to go from, because I do think we do that. I do think that we only say we only have so many hours in the day, we only have so much energy, we only have so much ability. And so the world is crazy because it's expecting way too much from me. And we're limiting ourselves by our own limitations we place on ourselves. And that's a pretty empowering thought to say, why should we limit ourselves to do anything? Why should we prevent ourselves from always wanting and being able to add the highest value just because we have this mental block that says you're expecting too much from me? Again, is that consistent with what you're telling us?
You know, most of us come to this life, we have the same opportunity, more or less. And of course, it depends on which family you are born with, and all those other things uh, differentiate us. But ultimately, everyone has the same amount of time. The, the main currency is time.
Mm-hmm.
And in the same amount of time, if their mindset is adding the highest value, your thinking would be different and you would be able to do a better job in the same amount of time than if you are basically fulfilling, I only get paid so much, I can only do so much. So you're basically giving a mindset to you to do a mediocre job. And as a consequence, who are you cheating? You are cheating yourself from feeling better about yourself. And
Yeah.
life's biggest prize is feeling great about yourself. All the money, all the other things don't matter. Ultimately, what you think of you matters. That is self-worth, right?
That's the second thought. Those are the two things that just jumped out at me. Is the first one the limitations, and then the second one is that idea of self-wealth and self-worth. And I love what you just said there. Okay. We think that we're getting by. We think that this is good enough. I'm being good enough in my job. I'm being good enough as a father or a mother or a friend or a brother or whatever it is. I feel like I'm being good enough in my community and my church and everything I'm doing. What can you expect of me? I'm being good enough. I'm good enough. This is good. Okay. If we know inside of us, if our conscience within us knows that we're capable of doing more, then I think that does chip away at us. I think we're almost playing a game within our own mind that says it's okay to do it at this level. It's okay. It's reasonable. I'm I'm giving my boss what he's due. I'm giving my world what it's due. It's okay. But when I lay my head down on my pillow at night, I know that I haven't given it all. I know that I could have done better. I know that I could have maybe not even done more. Maybe I did as much I spent as much time as I could have, but was it quality time? Was it meaningful, valuable, adding value time that was done? And I think that point is so important to know that when we think we're not cheating others, we're getting by, and we really kind of know we are cheating others because we're not giving the best we can, the worst person offended is ourselves, because when it's just us alone and we know that we've let ourselves down ultimately, and therefore our worth of ourself has been minimized, that is, the opposite of empowering. That is deflating, discouraging, depressing, and maybe even tied into the rampant depression, people that are on drugs for depression, because we're thinking we're giving enough, but inside we know we're not.
Absolutely. Best remedy for depression is if we can add value, we can do something which otherwise we would not. Suddenly you start feeling worthy of living. Suddenly the depression leaves you and you have higher self-worth. So it is all about, in life is not about how much I can rest and how much I can play and how much I can drink and how much I can party. All those things are uh, basically feeding your five senses. Basically, when we, instead of attending a party and you work on some project which is going to help somebody, which is going to save a life, which is going to make a difference in somebody's life, at the end, we will feel much better about yourself, uh, in spite of the fact you have missed a big party and big enjoyment and all those things, right?
Life is just filled with choices. I mean, especially in a busy world that we live in, any given moment we can choose to do probably 100 things. I mean, right now I could, choose to be any place and get engaged in any kind of activity. I mean, just taking like media alone, there's literally thousands of channels that I could listen to on the internet or on the old TV or on the old radio. I mean, I could, and that's just one little area of what I could be doing. So life is filled with choices. And do we make the right one? Do we make the meaningful one? I guess that's part of the decision process of how I actually do add the highest value. Once I decide that it's something I want to do, how do I do it? So when we come back, let's get a little bit further into that, Ratanjit, we understand now, I think, much better the why we need to. What do we do to do it, and how do we do it? That's what we'll come back for a very basic foundational program today, how to add the highest value. We'll be back in just a moment. All right, your turn, everybody.
All right, I'm going to jump in. Good morning again to all of you. So the value, the way, I have been, conceptualizing this so far is that there is a morality attached to the term value. Because if you want to make the world a better place, there has to be some sort of morality attached to it or spirituality attached to it. So, so that's, trying your best to do something at work, to me, does not fall in that category. I mean, it's important, it's relevant, but that's a different dimension. So I just would like to hear, something on that.
Very good. Sahil, he has done the right thing, like in the classroom, and raised his hand. Go ahead.
All right, thank you. I'll just ask my question pretty quickly. So my question is adding the highest value at the cost of our own health still classify as adding the highest value? For example, Nobel Prize winner Marie Curie She added the highest value to the field of physics and chemistry for her discovery in radioactivity. But eventually, after years of exposure to radiation, she passed away because of that exact same reason. So does that still classify as adding the highest value?
They're both excellent questions. Thank you, Rakesh and Sahil. I think we just have a couple seconds. Okay. All right, good to have all of you today. Love that input. Very valuable. Thank you. All right, Ratanjit, we're switching gears. We're going to ask those questions instead. They're better than mine. We're back on Stress-Free Living. Thank you so much for being with us here today. Ratanjit Sandhi and yours truly, Ray Samish, with you, talking about how to actually do it. The phrase that we use on this show so much, adding the highest value. How do you actually do? Why do you want to do that? And what does it really mean to add the highest value? Ratanjit, before we get back into the flow of what I had suggested going into the break, we had some great interactions with our guests. And one of them posed a question about the morality of the phrase. In other words, is adding the highest value, is that meant at a moral level, at a spiritual level of living our life, or does it really have the practical application? If we add the highest value when we make a lot of money, or if we add the highest value so that we are the most popular, so we do get elected to the highest political office or executive office because we've added the highest value, is that consistent, or should we only be talking about adding the highest value at the moral, spiritual level?
Basically, until we discover who we truly are, we are going to basically operate in the human body mode. We think I am male, or I'm white, black, or old, or young, or American, or Asian, or we all these levels, rich or poor. So in that text, we are thinking of adding value. And in that thing, basically, I feel I'm proud of adding the highest value. I add the highest value, and that's why I should deserve this. So they are all fear, insecurity, ego, and lust-driven scenarios. Until you discover the real you, the spiritual you, which is enlivening you, which is basically enlivening the human body, in that mode, your incentive is different. Your incentive in the body mode is the rewards or satisfaction or those kind of things. When you are in the mode, when you are seeing everything as the universal power present in each and every human being, and when your motive of life becomes serving that power present in you and everyone else. So when you are serving the highest order of this universe, how can you practice mediocrity? So you will always, whenever you add value, at the end of that value, you feel that, no, I have not done enough. So that's a feeling which gives you to elevate your adding the value. So that is where it leads you to the higher value. So to add the highest value is only theoretical. It is like perfection. We will never reach that. You will only achieve excellence in adding the higher value, because whatever value you added, you will find that I missed out on this thing. So you correct that by adding the more value. So when you are adding value to the highest power of the universe, basically that is the ultimate goal of your basic life. So then you do not discriminate people from poor or rich, or whether I get value, or should I add value in this situation or not that situation. So you become a mindset of continuously serving that power in the best way you can, and you are constantly elevating your way to the next level. So you are on the process, you are on the journey of adding the highest value. You would never reach there. So it's never enough. So that is the only way you can add the highest value. Otherwise, in the body mode, it is only your definition that you are adding the highest value. It does not amount to adding the highest value, right?
Let's say there is a person in that body mode, and they're very intelligent. They are very driven. They're efficient in their operations. They know what they're doing. They can grasp and analyze a problem and move forward. So that person is adding the highest value within their company, let's say, and he goes from being you tell the story of somebody who was hired as a janitor and they end up as the CEO because they have continuously added the highest value in the organization. But they're doing it in a body mode. Okay, they're seeing problems in the company and they're resolving them. They're seeing opportunities to be more efficient and to cut expenses and to generate more revenue and to be more profitable. And they're good at talking to people, so they build their customer base and they build better relationships with the community and all these things, so that they've been successful at an earthly level, and they get the rewards of making more money and having a better position. What am I missing in terms of the overall value that they're placing there? Because is it kind of adding value by accident because they're doing it right but for the wrong reasons? I mean, they are truly adding value, not at that spiritual level, but or are they? I mean, can you be accomplishing the same things and do it kind of for the wrong reasons?
When you add value in the human body mode, it is always conditional. You are adding value to get a better promotion or better job, or getting credit, or satisfying your internal ego, and all those things. Those are conditional. The only way you add value, highest value, unconditionally is in this oneness mode, where you see the power within each person. And then the intensity of adding the higher value enhances. In the body mode, you only think you are adding the highest value. You will never be able to add the highest value. Whereas in the spiritual mode, you are continuously on the path of bettering your best. And that is where you add the higher value than in the body mode. And as a consequence of that is that you are not satisfying your ego or any of those things, because you are now serving the highest power on earth, and that is actually becoming your purpose. You have found a purpose in life. You have found a purpose to be alive. You have found a purpose to be placed in the human body mode. And of course, you are going to use the human body and all the five senses to accomplish that. But your body and five senses become so servient to your spiritual mode, right?
Thank you for that clarification. So we can essentially fake it. And maybe, even those with good intentions, those who are trying to do it at the right level, we're kind of faking it. We're kind of saying, hey, we are, we're making a difference, we're moving the chains, we're adding value, it's a good thing, it's helping people, it's helping the company or my organization or my family, whatever it is. But ultimately, the kind of the litmus test would be if we ask ourselves, why are we doing it? Is it conditional based on, well, we think we are going to make money. We think we are going to get a higher position in the company with a reward like that. Are we going to get noticed? Are we going to get fame? Are they going to put a big article on us in the paper and across the internet? If the condition is based on some kind of reward, then we know we're probably still operating in that human body mode. If our condition is that we simply want to add the highest value, we simply want to be all that we were designed to be and do, and tap into the unlimited resources of oneness, then we know that we are on the right path. Is that, again, a fair distinction?
That's true. And also, Ray, your creative power, your brain's creative power was
Yeah.
not fully unlocked if it is contaminated with ego, fear, and greed. It gets only completely unlocked when think of this. A young girl, when she's 16, 17, 19-year-old, spending most of her time in looking into the mirror, getting pretty, and making phone calls and things like that. And when she gets married, and when she is blessed with a child, then is she's in mindset of helping that child in adding the high. She's always thinking, can I do anything better? So that mindset is available to a mother, can take care of the baby better than all the highly qualified nurses or anybody, because she is doing that from inside of her. She's not asking her husband or her family to give her trophy for getting up in the middle of night and feeding the baby or taking care of her. So that is really a purpose of serving the baby. The next level is when we serve the divine force present in each one. So it is a similar incentive which does not need any trophy or recognition or anything. By itself, it is a complete process, right?
Another question from one of our guests before we go to break. I want to cover this one. Where do we cross the line or go over the line when adding the highest value means that we actually hurt ourselves? Okay, a very simple case of a firefighter, okay, runs into a burning building to save people who are in the building. And in the process of trying to absolutely add the highest value, they lose their own life. And they have a wife and a family at home. They have kids at home who are now not going to have a father. Okay. It's a tragic situation to define and to talk about. But is there a point where adding the highest value could actually be counterproductive because we've thrown ourselves into that task at such a level that it actually isn't adding the highest value overall? Are those considerations, for that firefighter, is my wife and my family at home that I need to be there for, should that be a consideration of adding the highest value?
Basically, when you understand who you are, the power inside which is enlivening you, and you automatically understand this human body is given to you temporarily, whether it is 50 years or 100 years. So your fear of death gets taken away from you. And you are so focused on adding the highest value that the body, the death of this human body is irrelevant to you. That's what happens when you basically focus on adding the highest value to the supreme power.
So if you're fulfilling your ultimate purpose, if you're fulfilling the reason why we were here, then the effects on our body are kind of irrelevant because our body is only a short-term vehicle anyway.
Yeah,
right?
You're thinking of protecting your body, enlarging your age and everything, all that in the body mode. All your relationships, son, daughter, wife, or all that are basically in the human body mode. When you are in the spiritual mode, they are all divine. You see them as, you serve them not as your wife as or your son, you serve them as your divine power. So you elevate the service, even the simple cup of coffee you make for your spouse is elevated to a degree that it conveys a feeling of love and kindness and respect in that process.
I guess you done a nice job there of saying that our loved ones are the divine, but also in that example of the firefighter, the people that are within that burning building are also the divine.
Yes.
Right. So it takes away the ownership of my family and says that I'm here as a conduit to help the world, to serve the world, including including my family, but including my greater family of those connected through oneness. So very, very interesting. Thank you to our Zoom guests for giving us a couple of great questions there to ponder. When we come back, don't have a lot of time left, but we'll get back onto our topic, unless perhaps our Zoom guests have some more great questions that we're going to pose to Ratanjit when we return on this edition of Stress Free Living. Stay with us. All right. Let's give somebody else a chance, Rakesh, with all respect. If there's somebody else that would like to have a question first.
Yes, I was just going to say that.
And if not, then it's up to you. Anybody else have a thought that you'd like me to ask Ratanjit? Or just a general comment? Nobody. Okay.
Rakesh
Sahil's raised his hand again. Go ahead, Sahil.
All right, sorry to interrupt again,
No,
but thank you so much.
that's okay.
Thank you so much for the answer. It was quite valuable, and I took down notes on that. So thank you so much. My next question would be, and this is without the risk of making you feel conscious, Dada, or flattering you in any manner. So basically, when you come on the show, you are adding the highest value to all of us as audience members. Like even on your birthday, you were adding the highest value in this instance. So I would really appreciate, like, if you could share with us an instance where you added the highest value, maybe at Polycarb or in your professional experience, to maybe your client or in a different situation, which we could learn from and inspire.
Thank you.
Okay, we will try to get to that today. I'm not sure if the time will allow, but hopefully we can. This may end up being a two-part show. Thank you, Sahil. And anybody else? If not, we'll go back to Rakesh real quick. Rakesh, I guess it's you. Go ahead.
Okay, so the Tony Nader, some of you might know him, and so he uses this phrase often, also very often, pretty much all of his YouTube shows and podcasts.
Real
Now,
quick.
this comes from the concept of what we call Advaita Vedanta, the non-dualism.
And we are back on Stress-Free Living. I apologize when we have to cut off our Zoom guests, but we do have our radio audience, live audience that we want to tend to here. Thank you so much for being with us on this edition of Stress-Free Living. Ray Samit, Ratanjit Sandhi with you today. And talking about how to add the highest value. What does that really mean? Ratanjit, we've gotten legitimately sidebarred on this conversation to add some other factors in there, but I think pretty much we've understood the idea of why it's important to do this, of why it is meaningful to do it in the right way. And so what does it really mean now? Okay, taking to that next level of that, how do we actually implement the idea of doing it? Is it a thing with our brains? Is it a thing with our hearts that we're supposed to be using? Are we supposed to tap into the divine within us to be able to comprehend what is needed? Is it simple to do? You know, you mentioned serving coffee to your spouse. I mean, that's pretty easy to figure out. She's thirsty and I've got coffee, so I'm going to bring it to her. But I know it's not that simple. How do we actually go about doing this unconditionally the way we were meant to?
Basically, we have certain tools. They're in the form of knowledge and skills, right? So as I begin my life, when I'm 20 years old, or I got a college degree, I got some education, and I got some know-how, and so I have upgraded my skills from 10-year-old to 20-year-old to add the higher value. Once you realize that your mission is to add the highest value, the first thing you do is you become a better student of life. You continuously upgrade your skills and knowledge so that it allows you to add the highest value. So ultimately, you will know that somebody has asked me a question, give me an example when I added the highest value. I can't, because I have not so far been able to add the highest value. Every value I add, later on, I think I could have added higher value by doing this and this and this. So continuously enhancing your education and skills basically is the tools which are going to be needed to enhance your capacity to add the highest value. So it's a journey. It's not an end destination. I will never be able to add the highest value because it's a journey. Every time I add that, I can look, I could have done better. So this idea of you can only get on this path of adding the highest value, and this path will challenge you to become a better student, and you continuously become alert as a student of skills and learning. You're not going to be confined by the degree or diploma or the knowledge you possess. You're continuously adding higher knowledge to yourself, enhancing your capability to add value. Ray?
So that makes sense, that we are always trying to learn more and be more aware, but I've come to believe that the experiences that we've already faced in our life. Whatever we have been through has already kind of been part of our plan to be able to see what needs to be done so that we can add the highest value. And the experiences that we've been through, good or bad, have shaped us. We were born with a personality, we were born with certain characteristics, then our environment from those who raised us, our parents or siblings or whatever that was that took us through those most formative years, and then our schooling, our education, our work experiences, our relationships, all of those kind of things have shaped us to be able to be me, be.
Ray, are you there? Something happened to Ray's internet. Are you able to hear my voice? Can somebody give me a hint?
Yes, I don't think we can hear him. We've lost him.
Hear your voice, but not his.
Yeah, basically, fundamentally, let me summarize that. So this whole thing about adding the highest value boils down to a mindset. Ray was saying that we are what we are, basically how we are brought up, what our education system and all that. So once we obtain this understanding, the knowledge which our worldly education does not give us, the spiritual education gives us, is who we are, then how we have been defining yourself is changes. And you are able to continuously become a student and continuously adding more knowledge and more wisdom in your path, so enhancing your skills to add the highest value. And this mindset is going to require a habit forming situation. To form the habit of adding the highest value, once you have to understand the power of gratefulness. And only it is by becoming grateful unconditionally you are able to migrate from the human body mode into the spiritual mode. Otherwise, it will only remain a egoic declaration. No, no, I am a spiritual being. You are not going to construct anything which is based on the spiritual mode. Because you are part in the human body mode. So looks like this is going to conclude our show, and we very quickly get back onto our live audience, and we will take some questions and answer some questions. Thank you very much. And I don't know what happened to Ray, and we hope he can join us in a little while. Ray, are you there? You have to unmute yourself.
I apologize to everyone. I lost internet here at my home for a couple minutes, so that's why I suddenly drifted away. I missed what you were saying, so I apologize. I know you were carrying on without me, as you were so capable of doing, but I've come back only at enough time.
Yeah, he froze.
Certainly didn't over the last 3 minutes. So, but sometimes things happen like that. Ratanjit, I think that's the best way to say this is that we need to pick up the pieces here that we left so abruptly. My apologies to our wonderful audience for what has happened there at the end of the show beyond our control technically. And we will continue this next week if that's okay with you, Ratanjit.
Sure.
And we will get much further along with the idea of adding the highest value. Again, apologies for the technical difficulties. With that, thank you, Ratanjit, and thank you to everybody for being with us. Remember, we're all playing the same game. Sometimes technically that's difficult. We appreciate you being with us. We'll talk to you again real soon. Well, that's a first. It was okay. Yes, we're still on. All right, now we're opening up to everybody. If you would like to join in, please
We did
do.
not add the highest value today.
I know we did, not with that ending, unfortunately. Go ahead. Who would like to say something? Ken? Doctor?
Yes. Hi, good morning. Sorry, I got a little bit late. So, the way he puts it, it's wonderful to grasp if you have some fundamental knowledge and if you have heard it, if you read about it, and you know how he feels. But a person who's just brand new, I think, Ratanjit, I teach communication courses voluntarily to medical students. And they always point out that some of these higher value conceptual concepts are not easy to understand unless you give them examples, unless you give them a lot of stories that clarifies it. I think your example of mother's love for unconditional love and caring for the newborn was a clear example. I don't know whether I got convinced about serving a cup of tea or coffee to your wife is always taken as, adding value, at least not that I thought at any time. And even when I, just like you said it, teach medical students, that's not I have in mind that I'm adding value to the students. I go there and teach them because I learn from them and I'm hoping they learn something from me. But I think that to my mind, like you said, if you are doing something that you want to, or you are conditioned to, or you are designed to, we never think of doing this, that I'm adding value. However, if I'm looking at from a distance, I can cite you example which I would consider adding values to the society, to the country, to the community, would be military people serving in the community, firefighters, people. To me, the most ultimate thing that one of the audience asked was people giving kidneys, liver, without even knowing who they're giving to their organs, but they would give it. And to me, that's something only few people have it, that thought process that I don't care about myself. I'd rather save somebody's life. How would you differentiate that kind of sacrifice, knowingly that you are doing it just to help others and unknowingly helping others? Your thoughts, Ratanjit?
Ultimately, it's when we are in the ego mode, when we are in the human body mode, giving up, in India, for example, there are so many sadhus. They become sadhu, means they give up everything. They give up their wealth, they give up their family, they give up everything, and they become sadhu. So that's a great sacrifice. and you're giving kidney or you're giving liver or giving these things, they're great satisfaction. So ultimately, it can be done in both modes. It can be done in the ego mode as well as in the oneness mode. So typically, when we do this, we are glorifying ultimately ourselves in doing that. And there are possibilities that there are people who do it by basically a feeling of helping, not glorifying themselves. There are both the cases available to us. So when you don't own anything, how can you give up something? So the concept of becoming a sadhu itself is basically wrong, because when you do not have anything, everything is given to you. How can you give up everything? So adding the highest value is a mindset. It's not associated with whatever you're doing, whether you are teaching or whether you're making a cup of tea or whether you're giving your kidney. They're all basically coming from two mindset. One is ego driven, one is oneness driven. So whenever you have part your mind into oneness, that is the only place you are in a position to add the highest value. Otherwise, that is only a show. It has to be thought about, because right now, everyone who is listening and talking are in the human body mode. So until we slowly form a habit of living in the oneness mode, it's only going to be egoic exercise that no, I am in a oneness mode. So it's a very tall order. So I have been trying all my life to migrate into oneness mode. Have I succeeded? Not really.
But there are examples, to Dr. Mita's suggestion, there are examples where you have added the highest value. I know you said earlier to Sahil that you can't give an example of that. Yes, you realized after the fact that you could have even done it better, that you overlooked one thing, or you realized one thing later. But in the moment that you were able to assess it, you added the highest value. Isn't it meaningful to give those examples, especially to point out when you added value versus when you added the highest value? I think that's the part that I find the most meaningful, is that you can pretty much always add value. There's always a way to do something nice and something kind, or something that has some kind of a benefit to it for others. But the idea of assessing, analyzing, using who you are and what you've done. And my last question before the internet went out, taking the person that we have become and assessing what is the way to add the highest value. That's the part that's the most meaningful to me. Can we give those examples next week in the show?
Sure.
Or are you hesitant to do that?
Yeah.
I think that
Okay.
would be really helpful, because you can make a conditional case for anything. You give, let's say, money to a very needy person or food to a hungry guy, and you give it just because you want to. But then you can argue, well, it must make him feel better. That's why he's giving it. You can always say something about that. It may be doing it because of conditional. We don't know whether he's doing it because it makes him feel better, or he thinks that's my job, or that's why I should do as a human being. And it's very difficult to understand the concept. Like you said, it's a continuous process where you want to do certain things, not because you want to, because you feel that's the right thing to do. But maybe I'm getting a satisfaction for thinking that I'm doing the right thing one way or another, right? And then it becomes conditional. How do you tell? How do you differentiate that? And I think some examples which are of more clear would add really understanding to it. What do you think, Ray? Am I off totally?
No, I
No,
agree.
you're very right. Everything is what you're saying is what going through everybody's head. Because what I said, it's very difficult to comprehend what I'm saying.
But you always say it's a body mode. But yeah, but we all think and do things in body mode. So you have to put a body mode, even if you rise above body mode. And if you want to do something, it has to be through body mode, no?
Body is a tool given to you.
I know, but that's what I'm saying. So it has to be part of it, whatever
Yeah,
you do.
it has to be part of it. And it is we all in our life have instances when we have really operated in the oneness mode without knowing. So there is everybody who has operated in the oneness mode and body mode. So ultimately, what I'm saying is we have to systematically form a habit of continuously thinking in the oneness mode. And this is where everything falls into place.
In the past, Ratanjit used the term of what's directing the brain. Because if we let our human body direct our brain, it is always going to gravitate towards what's in it for us. But if we can have this other part of us, the real us, directing our brain, then our brain will figure out ways of adding the highest value for the right purposes. I think there's sometimes a confluence of these. I think sometimes what is done for us personally also affects us on a spiritual basis and maybe by accident. That's kind of what I was referring to earlier, where you have this person that rises through a company because he's doing all the right things and doing all the right benefits. There might be a certain element of oneness in there unbeknownst to him. Might be a certain amount of adding the highest value for the right reasons that infiltrated his egoic reasons. So I think differentiating that, to use your term, is not always easy, but I think it shows at the end. I think it shows at the end when maybe you got that feeling of self-worth because you did it ultimately for the right reasons and not for the rewards.
If you think of a musician who is the best in the world playing piano, is playing at the Carnegie Hall. And before he gets into the music, he appears on the stage, everybody's clapping, he bows, he takes the bow, and he's in the human body mode. Now, when he starts playing piano, when he is at the peak of the performance, when he becomes music, he's no longer that person who is taking the credit. And at that point, he's operating in the oneness mode. And when he's finishing the concert, and when he gets up, again, there are clappings, and he takes the credit. He takes the credit in the egoic mode, in the human body mode. So that is the differentiation between the two modes.
Well, in medicine, we call it reflex actions or reflex mode. You do it automatically.
automatically. That is
Yeah.
in the human body.
Yeah,
It's
see, this
oneness mode.
example clarified it clearly to my mind what you're saying. So that's what I was saying, that
Yes.
Yeah.
perhaps the show will be of more value to audiences who are relatively newer to this concept. The more examples you gave, like my students always teach, the better or interesting the show would get. I don't know. That's just one suggestion.
You're
you. No, that's-
absolutely right. You're absolutely right.
Yeah. No, we learn through stories, very much so.
Yeah.
Sandy, I know you have a conference to go to. Anything you want to add or ask about? Oh, unmute yourself. We're not hearing you, Sandy. Okay, maybe he has no microphone. We're not hearing you.
I don't think, I think he can't take he's in a silent hall, so he probably can't speak where he is.
Okay.
At the, so he's
Okay.
saying he's.
Well, thank you. Well, we're glad you're with us. Thank you. See, you know her. You know him. All right. Reka, since you commented there, anything you'd like to add?
No, I just really always enjoy Uncle's topics and always gets me thinking deeper. Nothing to add, but just to say I really enjoyed it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone have any other thoughts? We will work on next week's show. I'm going to go back and listen to the ending and see if we can connect the program again. I feel so bad for that disconnection, but it was
You
meant
had
to be.
nothing to do with it.
No, I know. It was just unfortunate that it happened where it did.
No, I think
Rakesh? Oh,
that
go ahead,
both
Ken.
of you make a wonderful show. You really do. It's just you have to try to understand it. Your concepts are not always easy, Ratanjit. You think at very higher level, and that tells me that you are a very high level thinker. You are reflexive. You are not well at that level, and maybe you are train your brain to think always at a higher level, but to maintain that mode all day long for 24 hours is impossible. And I think you do. It's all the credit to you guys, both of you. Thank you for teaching us. Thank you for trying to make us a better citizen.
Sahil, you have something else?
Right. I think I've asked all of my questions, but thank you so much for giving me the opportunity and platform to pose my questions. So, well, thank you. I learned a lot from this.
Maybe you should write it next time when you think about it and you won't forget it.
Actually, I do. I have on my notes app, I do try and write some of the questions, but it's reached the end of its limits for now.
You can blame me for making you forget things.
No, I think your insights really, add fuel to the fire of the discussions. So, thank you so much to every member that joins in and asks interesting questions. So,
Rakesh, we cut you off. Can you complete what your thought process was?
Oh, sure, no problem. It's good to have other people, chime in. I was just saying that, as far as I know, because I like to read up on these things, so one of my areas of interest, the earliest mention of this, oneness, or we call it non-dualism, that actually comes from Vedanta. And, and in that concept, it's a purely spiritual concept, and you touch upon that oftentimes, but you explain it slightly differently by saying that, well, the oneness could be in body mode and non-body mode, but in Vedanta, it's just one mode, which is spiritual, meaning that's why in Indian culture, we say namaste. And namaste, most people think it's hello. It's not hello. Namaste means that the light in me pays respect to light in you. That's oneness right there. So it's the same light that we're part of. And so that's how I understand it. I just wanted to see if we are on the same page. Now we try to, when we try to extend this to practical world, I think we run into trouble. I don't think it's like a one-to-one, transposition of that, spiritual idea to the practical life world. Because in practical life, and that's where people say, well, even if I give the money to a charity, well, I'm doing it because it makes me feel good. So you're getting something out of that. And then this, these ideas were taught later by Plato and Aristotle and Socrates. They talk about intrinsic versus extrinsic values, stuff like that. So I just wanted to mention that this is a great area of interest for me, and just wanted to hear your thoughts.
That is, it's exactly oneness when you talk about namaste. And basically, as Ray was repeating, that we have basically one body, but there are three, we can look at it as three components. And one component is the brain, which is a computer. And another component is the human body, which has, to survive it is given five senses. So what feels cold, what feels hot, and what feels good to us. And so that we are not able to, otherwise this human body will not survive its existence. So those five senses are given to us. And then there is the light, the enlivening force, which is given to this body. And when you die, all the organs and everything is intact, but that light is missing and it is dead. So when that light controls the human brain, it parts it in oneness. When the human body, your five senses controls this brain, it parts in what is in it for me, to protect this body, what it would benefit this body. So there is nothing wrong in either one of them. So we have to understand this whole phenomena so that we can control the outcome of our thinking through oneness mode or body mode.
With that, we will say goodbye. Thank you so much for being part of our program today. We've really enjoyed having you. You add a lot of value to our program.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Bye-bye, everybody.